What early signs reveal a culture that's starting to crack?
You start to notice outliers in your people. Before you know it, one will start to show that they're the bad apple. You're working 80 hours a week, culture just doesn't come up. Before you know it, you have a bad culture and you're backtracking, trying to fix it.
Today's guest is Thomas Mills, a thought-leading entrepreneur whose work sits at the intersection of strategy, communication, and real-world problem-solving. Thomas brings a grounded perspective on how decisions are made, how teams operate under pressure, and what it actually takes to move from ideas into execution. His approach is not just about outcomes, but about understanding the dynamic underneath them, the patterns, the assumptions, and the choices that shape what's next. In this conversation, we explore how clarity is built in complex environments, how leaders can navigate competing priorities, and what it looks like to stay intentional when things don't go as planned.
If you want to be that type of leader and keep your business really small, then keep doing that. Take a long look in the mirror first.
Can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
All right, my name's Thomas Mills. I have a background in engineering, maintenance, and now I operate a hospitality business in Nashville.
Amazing. And we're going to talk to you today about culture, specifically within entrepreneurship and small businesses.
Right.
I've been following your work for a little while now, and one thing you do extremely well is build healthy cultures.
Thank you.
And that's from what I see, at least.
From what I tell you.
Right, from what you tell me. So in your experience, what early signs reveal a culture that's starting to crack?
From my experience, you start to notice outliers in your people. Normally in small business, we have, let's say 10 or less employees. And before you know it, one will start to show that they're the bad apple. And when you start to notice that, it rubs off quickly on other people. So it's very important that you tackle that as soon as it comes up instead of letting it fester, because one person can really damage the entire culture, especially in small business.
Right. And why do you think small business owners often overlook culture until something goes wrong?
I would say when they're starting their small business, it's usually based on a passion of theirs. And the last thing they're thinking about is what their team will look like someday. And when starting this business, when thinking about, what am I going to do to gain customers, to earn money, the last thing you think is company culture. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, you've hired a few people to help. And you're normally, in the small business world, you're scrambling every day. You're working 80 hours a week. Culture just doesn't come up. Mm-hmm. And before you know it, you have a bad culture and you're backtracking, trying to fix it.
Right. And when we even say culture, it's kind of a loaded term. Like, what are we even talking about? Are we talking about like structures and policies? What is work culture?
To me, work culture is the vibe you feel as soon as you walk into the office. Mm-hmm. Whether you have anything written, any structure, any policies, there's always an energy in the air. And I think that's where the culture starts. Mm-hmm,
mm-hmm. Do you find that it's built like bottom up, like from the employees upward, or like normally the founder or CEO sets that standard?
I think the founder or CEO sets the standard. Mm-hmm. But if he's paying attention, he'll feel what type of culture he needs based on bottom up.
Okay. And what do you think the cost of ignoring the emotional infrastructure of a small team? What's the cost of that?
The cost can hit you everywhere. Company morale and the bottom line, your profitability. If you're not handling a poor culture from the beginning, each little thing from your labor, from your revenue, from the good vibe of your business, it slowly just gets chipped away. Mm-hmm. And the last thing you want is attrition. You don't want to cycle through employees to try to get those replaced. You don't want to be scrambling trying to make up profit somewhere else just due to poor output, those types of things. So yeah.
Yeah. And so what does healthy culture look like to you?
Healthy culture to me looks like smiling faces at work, people feeling like a family, people hanging out after work, people that you can tell don't dread coming to work. And I think most people do want to just come to work, have a decent work day, do a good job, and go home. And when you can provide that for them, along with some laughs and, productivity, I think, it's very easy to keep a good culture going.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've had the pleasure or displeasure, as however you want to look at it, of working for smaller teams and
Hmm.
companies and then the larger enterprises. It seems more impossible to have that sort of, like you said, smiling faces, that kind of positive culture in
Hmm.
larger organizations than smaller ones.
Right.
Is it impossible?
Normally, and I come from a large organization, normally the bigger the organization, you have work groups instead of this entire company culture. Um, you may work with 10,000 people, but you only really ever know 50 of them.
True.
So I think if you can get your work group within this large organization comfortable, excited about work, I think there's a possibility there.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's a huge corporation and there's a lot of poor company morale, it's really hard to tackle that. That takes a lot of work and that takes years to overcome.
Mm-hmm. Is there something in your experience that you could think of that larger organizations can take from smaller companies so they do well, and implement it at the enterprise level?
Mm, there's a million things. I think the larger organizations, especially when I was talking about with the work groups within those larger organizations, they have to remember where they came from. We didn't start with a large corporation with 50,000 employees nationwide.
Mm-hmm.
We started as a small business, or we started with our individual work group that expanded, those types of things. And my thoughts would be to try to continue to hold on to that as long as you can. The closeness, the family feel, the fun, the laughs, those types of things. Bring that into your work group, and then you might get lucky, and the work group next to you catches on, and they picked up on it, because that can become addictive. So
When you think about what it takes to build a healthy culture, what communication habits create healthy small organizations and which ones destroy trust quickly?
mhm. So just from my experience, I would say getting to know your people right away. Not necessarily getting to know them professionally, but getting to know who they are, what they like, what they enjoy, how they react to different things. My way of doing things is I like to roast everybody. I mean, to be honest, and I think that's the quickest way, believe it or not, to get people to let their guard down.
Humor.
Humor.
Hmm.
And it may be your first day on the job and you're meeting me for the first time. I'm probably going to make fun of you, but it's going to feel good, and we're going to laugh about it, and then we're going to get to work. We'll get to training. We'll get to learning the job.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I just feel like humor and letting people know we're all human here is the easiest way to get people to let their guard down.
Hmm. And which one do you think destroys trust quickly?
Well, anytime you're talking about employees to other employees, I mean, that's just
Hmm.
an absolute non-starter. Just leave that out.
Hmm.
Unless it's something positive, or just trying to, say so and so's doing a good job, and we should all, represent and congratulate that person for it. But if we're talking um, behind employees' backs or something like that, rumors, those types of things, immediately.
Hmm. And I feel like it's slightly human nature, though, to kind of gossip, especially in a small space where you're seeing the
Hmm.
same people every day. What do you do to try to lower that?
Try my best not to ever get involved.
Mm.
Um, it's going to happen, and there's no way around it.
Mhm.
It is going to happen, especially in smaller work groups, when everybody's around everybody every day. And like I said earlier, they become friends outside of work. They're hanging out. The gossip will happen.
Mhm.
If it gets to me, I'll try to kill it off. But for the most part, I'll try not to even engage in it at all.
Right, right. And how do you think that leaders unintentionally create confusion even when they think they're being clear?
Could possibly be my biggest weakness. Seriously. Um, my team tells me all the time that I'm driven. I got great visions. I attack them, but I'll tend to leave them behind because I just automatically assume they know what I'm going for.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's something I'm working on every day, honestly, is here's where we're going. This is why we're doing this. And here's why it's important for you to understand so you can support. Ideally, that's how I should be doing it. But again, I say, this is what we're doing. And then from that point forward, I'm just expecting them to know why. And again, it's something I'm working on all the time. And I think that to answer your question, that's, not being clear. It's thinking everybody else sees the same vision you see.
I think that is across all types of relationships, right? That happens in romantic relationships, with friendships. We anticipate the people who we think know us well, know what we're thinking as well.
Right.
That's just not how it really works.
Right.
And so as you've been building these teams across different industries as well, have you noticed that the same sort of techniques work across different sectors and industries, or do certain things only work well in certain spaces?
Well, I think that's what we talked about a minute ago was the leader has to start the culture, but the leader also has to pay attention to what type of culture that business needs, because they're all going to be different. A factory worker is not going to, a factory will not have the same culture as a hospital. Right. There's just no way around it. So you just have to pay attention to what everybody's strengths, weaknesses, how they react, how you motivate them. It's going to be different in each place.
Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes we're always looking for the sort of magic universal framework that works in every situation. It just doesn't exist.
Right.
And so when you think about, again, your experience of working in larger enterprises and smaller companies and navigating conflict when it arises, what surprised you the most about the way small teams navigate conflict?
I'm surprised at small teams because they tend to avoid it longer than the larger teams. So in an enterprise business, it's so easy to have an issue. I'm going to HR, I want to get this settled because it's huge. And, you have entire teams to handle employee issues. And I would say in the small business side, we tend to avoid it because, again, it's like your family sometimes. You're with this person all day, every day. We're not getting along. Something's not working out right. And we just push it off as long as we can because there's not a third party we could go to. There's not human resources that can sit both of you down and try to figure things out. So, again, just the way the smaller work groups for smaller businesses tend to avoid problems instead of hitting them head on.
And let's talk a little bit more specifically about entrepreneurship because it's a very glamorized idea. You've started multiple businesses. What did leadership ask of you that you didn't expect to give?
I did not understand how important it is to be able to get your employees to see your vision and to motivate them to help you reach your vision. And then, I think mostly in small businesses, as the leader or the founder of that business, we come to this crossroads of, I'll just do it myself. And
guilty.
Yeah, it's hard to get out of that mindset. And for years, it's always, you tried, okay, just get out of the way. I'll get it done myself. And if you want to be that type of leader and keep your business really small, then keep doing that. If you want to scale past any type of, one-man show, you have to train and trust people to do the job. And when they mess up, they have to fix it. And, I'm as guilty as anybody. By asking to step aside, I'll take care of it. And that was something I wasn't ready for back when I was, starting my journey.
And I guess building on that, what do you think that most small business owners do that they're just getting in their own way?
That would be one of them. Yeah. Trying to do everything themselves. Trying to glorify 100-hour work week as if that's some type of badge of honor. I slept 3 minutes last night because I was doing all these different things. Not asking for help. Look, usually, like we said, the small business owner was an expert at this thing, or it was their idea to do this. But that doesn't mean they know every aspect of business. They might not know accounting, the legal side, human resources, hiring, all these types of things. And usually it's that one person that's trying to figure all this out. And they're on the internet and they're just not getting the proper help.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of that time is due to they don't have the budget for it, or they don't know what they don't know. So,
Right. Yeah. And just building on your earlier point, my own reflection, and I think we've talked about this separately, is just when you as the owner become the bottleneck, meaning
Mhm.
like the business literally doesn't run without you.
Right.
I know you know about that one.
Yeah, it's a terrible spot to be in.
And again, that usually just happens because, I guess, how do you move then from subject matter expert to, like, it's a mindset shift, right?
It
Like
really is.
you're now a business owner and you have to think differently about the skill that you're doing, right?
Hmm.
How do you start to do that? Just get a coach.
I think that's the easy way out. So I would say, as a business owner, a small business especially, we weren't business-minded people.
Exactly.
And there's a huge difference between I went to school for business versus I went to school to learn how to work on an HVAC system. But now I'm really good at HVAC, so I want to start my own business, but I don't know anything about business.
Right.
I can still just work on HVAC.
Right.
So trying to marry those two things and bridge that gap is incredibly difficult, but it can be done. And if you're struggling, you need to get the proper help.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. What's one part of being an entrepreneur that you find the most annoying?
The most annoying?
Yeah.
That's the easy one.
Oh, easy. Okay.
Oh, that's the easiest one.
I think it's easy for me too, but they're going to be different.
Your phone never stops.
Oh, I wish I had that problem.
No, that's one problem you don't want. And you can't complain about it. I want people to come to me for help, and I want customers, and I want people to reach out and all these things. But the fact that all day, every day, you may wake up at 7:00 and already have 20 messages on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
And it can get to you,
Yeah.
It gets difficult, and you
Yeah.
try to draw lines and create boundaries. But again, you're also a small business, so you're not turning business away,
Mm-hmm. Mine is branding.
Branding.
I think that going into this, I really underestimated how much I was going to have to spend time selling myself
Mm-hmm.
versus the thing I'm good at.
Yeah.
I just want to do the thing,
Right.
And so I think having to really focus. I mean, on a positive note, I feel like I've kind of gotten to get to know myself again
Mm-hmm.
because I had to think about my why, all these things all the time. But that's definitely the most annoying for me. I'm learning to appreciate it as part of the bigger picture, but
I can understand why that would be difficult.
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's
Because you just want to work. You don't want to talk about yourself and try to be the star.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think if you're really good at something, people will notice. It might take longer,
Mm-hmm.
but instead of you going out telling everybody how good you are at it, just
Right.
do good, and they'll eventually come around.
It's true. One thing that we talked about earlier before we hit record was I remember you saying something that sits with you kind of heavy about being a business owner is the realization that other people's livelihood is dependent on you being successful.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that.
That's the one thing that keeps you up at night. You get to know your employees, and before you know it, you've met their husband, wife, you've seen their kids start to grow up. And when you realize that all that is relying on your success, I got to keep the business moving forward. I got to bring in more customers, more revenue, more employees, more help. And there's never really a time you can turn that off, because when you look at your employees and you realize that they're counting on you for, their mortgage, their groceries, their cars, all these types of things, all boils down to how well can I perform and how well can I get this company to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's a really powerful position to be in, but at the same time, it can add a level of stress that most people wouldn't think about until they're in that position,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that a entire family's livelihood depends on you, and then obviously, the more employees, the more families. So
Mm-hmm.
it's tough.
Yeah. Another philosophy of yours that kind of stuck with me when we were chatting was your perspective on networking, what that means. I think that a lot of people have different definitions of it, myself included. I had to learn, I think when we hear it, it's just kind of daunting. Like, oh my God, I want to go to this event and shake hands and it's not going to lead it, that kind of stuff. But I think, again, your approach is more relationship focused. And I love how you bring attention to never really selling yourself, but just listening. And since listening is a key theme of the show, please talk more about that.
If you listen to people, they'll tell you everything they need. And you'll start to hear these little nuggets that they drop that allow you to, come up with a solution or offer advice or connect them with somebody that might be able to help them. But networking never, ever stops. And you have to embrace it and be good at it, not go into it with this mindset of this is a networking event, so I have to turn it on for this. Forget that. I've been to a million networking events and never came away with a decent connection or a business move. But when I go out to eat, the waitress might be, incredibly helpful in some way or another, and we connect. Or, at a gas station, like you're always listening to people. And when you hear these little nuggets that they drop, you should act on them.
Yeah.
And you should see like, well, where could this take us? So that's the way I tend to network. Yeah. I really don't do well at like a straight up networking event because it's more, to me, it's just more of a show. And everybody is, they have their name tag on and everybody wants to talk about themselves and nobody's really listening.
Right. Yeah. I love you bringing the humanity back into networking. And more importantly, you mentioned before that going into it with the mindset of how you're going to help each other. Like, don't sell, just, you're not trying to constantly just sell like the service. It's you need this thing. I need this thing. How can we exchange? Right.
That's usually my sales pitch to anybody I'm talking to is I'm not trying to just get your business. I want to see how both of us can win here because I do the thing that you need and I need you in order to do my thing. So let's figure out, cost and how we can make this work for both of us. And if it's a win-win, we can do business together. But I've never really had to push sales because I'm more pushing the relationship and, like I said, the win-win type of thing.
Thinking about sort of your evolution through business, how has your leadership lens evolved as you've grown personally and professionally?
One thing we touched on earlier was the communication issues I have with trying to, motivate and provide a vision and expecting everybody to know why we're doing it. And that's an ever evolving skill I'm trying to work on.
Yeah.
I think also letting your employees know that you have weaknesses too. And I tell mine pretty much every single day, like all of you combined will not equal the amount of mistakes I've made through this process. So if you mess up, let's just fix it and move forward. And I think humbling myself to that and being human and them seeing me mess up and them calling me out on it, or that was a bad decision, that we lost for this reason or that reason, has really improved communication between them and me over the years and them understanding like what it takes for them to get the most out of me. That was something I didn't have in the beginning. I wanted to be the perfect boss. I wanted to do everything right. And I had a really strong mentor who gave me the advice, never let your employee see you do something wrong. And at the time that made sense. I got to be perfect because I can't try to correct another employee's behavior if I've had the same behavior. But over the years, I've come to realize my employees need to be able to see me mess up, but they also need to be able to see me to, correct it and fix it and improve it. But that's just my perspective on that.
Yeah. And I think that's more meaningful to see you fix it and move forward and evolve. That's more character development than just winning or losing, in a moment. So thinking about, especially in the small business arena, we talked about how people don't even think about really building a culture intentionally until it's too late. I feel like the same goes for like policies and systems and SOPs and structures and things like that.
Yeah.
Can you think of a system that you've introduced that changed how your team functioned?
So back in my manufacturing, maintenance, and engineering days, I had a team of about 18 engineers, and we had, stamping presses, robotics, assembly line that we had to maintain. But when I stepped into the role, the previous manager, and kind of the way things had been from the beginning, was all of you guys are responsible for all this equipment. And I immediately thought, this is a terrible idea. Everybody's focusing on everything and nothing gets fixed.
Yeah.
So within a week, I started assigning specific equipment to specific people and giving them ownership and say, this is yours. This robot goes down. It's on you. And the morale boost was almost instant because people felt like they had a purpose all of a sudden. And if everybody's focusing on everything, you're always going to have people that dodge the work because somebody else will fix it. Somebody else will get to this. But when it's yours, you look at it a little bit different, and immediate morale boost, immediate, improvement to the culture, to people's confidence, and to their, taking ownership of this equipment. So that was a really positive moment for me.
Yeah, and I like the focus on ownership. So how do you create that sort of accountability without breeding fear into the culture?
I just scare them.
Without breeding fear?
No. My work nickname was Mr. Serious for so long. And I never knew why, because I thought I was, goofy and fun and whatever. But I think you just have to talk to people and just, I'm not here to scare you. Let's make sure this is done right. And you just have an open communication and ask them why they messed up or what happened to cause this problem. They'll answer you, but you just have to be willing to accept what they say and not go into attack mode of you messed up, you're in trouble. I don't have I'm not more of a fear-based type owner or manager. I don't want to intimidate anybody or anything like that.
Right.
Just want to get better.
Yeah. And your approach to ownership is something else that stuck with me and I put into practice as well. The way you talk about giving your employees ownership of their role. So, I mean, we've all applied to a job and see the job description, and this is what we're expected to do when we get there. Even though it always says at the bottom, like, amongst other duties to be described later. But how did you sort of drift into this approach of giving people ownership over the role and not just what's on the paper?
Well, if you give them the ability to improve what's on the paper, they instantly take more ownership. When they're walking into a job, they're usually taking over what somebody else was doing or maybe a new role, but you have, like you said, the SOP for that job. And when you immediately ask them, like, this is what you have to do, but can you help me improve it? I don't know that we're doing it right. A new, fresh set of eyes can help, and own it, do it, but come to me with improvement opportunities right away. And I'm counting on you for that. And you'd be surprised how quickly people take ownership of that position when they know this is my job, but I can make my job better. So
yeah, I can't say I've ever had that. That sounds like really nice. And I've noticed it in my small team as well, where there were moments there. I think of myself too as almost like a work soldier. Like, it's like you tell me what to do, I'm going to do it great. And that's just kind of how I've always operated. Not I'm going to take this to the next level. And I noticed that was slowly happening with my team, where it was like they were always just waiting for my next task to give them. And I'm thinking to myself, why would you not know to do the next thing, or why would you just not, if you know it needs to be done, just go ahead and do it, And I think really helping them see that, again, this is not a dictatorship. This is a space for you to build this with me, that made a big difference. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, definitely.
So what small systems can businesses implement today that immediately strengthen culture?
You have to bring humor and fun into it without thinking we're at work. This has got to be 100% serious. We're in work mode. You have to have people smiling. You have to have people laughing. I'll tell you a funny story. I had a remote team for a while. There was about 8 of us in 4 different cities. So we only got together when we had an online Zoom meeting, right? So the culture was kind of tough, and there was no real work group camaraderie, but we knew each other. And I wanted to fix it, so I added a meeting to the board every Friday. It was a Zoom meeting, and the name of the meeting was Meeting of a Different Kind.
Okay.
And all we did was get on this meeting and roast each other for 15 minutes straight.
Oh my gosh.
And just it was an instant boost to everything. Nobody was safe in that meeting, and it helped so much. And again, it was just back and forth. All we did was roast each other. And to take 15 minutes out of a work week to give everybody a boost and feel good and laugh, it carries so much weight with your immediate team, especially in remote situations like that, when you don't have somebody beside you to talk to. When you're sitting in front of a computer at your house all day, every day, just doing things. It was a really good move. It really helped a lot, and I miss those meetings a lot.
Oh man. And speaking of like remote work, especially, there's obviously been a shift in work culture and operations since the pandemic. I think we've learned there's other ways to operate in a business. Remote work just being one of them. How do I want to ask this question?
Just ask it.
Just do it.
Just ask it.
I guess when you think about the shift in work, like where's that gap that happened where the humanity was taken out of work? You know what I mean? Like we think back to historically, like the factory line, and it's just like, this is how things operated from these hours, these conditions. And I feel like this is why people think healthy culture can't exist in corporations, because of the way it's functioned for so long. But again, maybe it started in COVID, maybe sooner. I think we're slowly realizing you can be a human being at work. This is just one little part of our existence as in life.
Right.
That was the question.
I didn't hear the question.
There wasn't a question.
The question was, I'm going to tell you something.
The question is, let me tell you a story.
But you're exactly right. I think it's kind of like a do what you're told mentality that carried over from years ago. And at some point, or at that point, nobody asked the question of like, hey, we can still do the same job, but enjoy it while we're doing it. So just start questioning old ways.
Yeah.
This is the way we've always done it because this is the way we've always done it. That is the worst excuse in business, especially in those manufacturing type jobs. It's the way we've always done it, and that's why we're in the situation we're in. Maybe we should change that. Yeah.
And you coming from that sort of atmosphere and you doing things differently in your own businesses, have you noticed sort of a decline in, like, I don't know, profitability, success, or do you find that it actually helps and it increases everything?
It definitely helps. Work groups work better when they're excited. When everybody's part of the team and doing their role and contributing, labor hours actually go down because you become way more productive. So that's always going to be a plus. We're not working overtime to make up all the work that we should have got done during the week. So I have noticed a profitability angle based on good culture.
Yeah. When we think about like sort of breaking unhealthy patterns and cycles in the workplace, for someone who's been in charge and leading a team for, 40 plus years, who's obviously stuck in their ways, how do you go about trying to get them to see the light and do things differently?
If they are reporting to me or if I'm reporting to them?
Both.
All right, I'll try. I've always been really direct.
Yeah.
So if I'm reporting to this person and they're stuck in their ways, I will tell them, there's a much better way of doing this, or have you thought about this? And then I can explain to them why. But I wouldn't shy away from it. I would let them know right away that I get it. You've done this for 40 years and you're the best. That's why you've been doing it for so long. But times are changing and we need to fix these things or whatever. If they don't want to hear that, then that's a problem with them. That's just not much you could do about it at that point. If that person reports to me, I would do the exact same thing. Except it would come with a little bit more of a, I wouldn't say consequence, but like, this is how things are going to go from now on. You know, appreciate what you've put in on the last 40 years, but that's not going to work anymore. Cultures changed, people changed, different generations come through the workforce. Everybody's going to be motivated a little bit differently. We can't just have a guy who's been here since day one, stuck in his ways, and think we're going to get the same production 40 years later that we got in year one. So
you are direct, but what about the people who aren't so direct? And I think most people will kind of just feel like if I say something, I'm going to get fired. Or if I bring this to their attention, I'm going to get on a PIP or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think most people aren't as brave in approaching their bosses, especially when it comes to how they should act. What do you say to them? Just be brave.
Just be brave. All you got to do is do it. We all get stuck in jobs we don't like.
Yeah.
Everybody's been there. If you can't speak up at your job because of fear of getting fired or getting in trouble, my recommendation would be start working your way out. Don't do that to yourself. Don't work under those conditions. Do what you have to do to leave. And I know that's a lot easier said than done. I totally understand that. But it can be done. And, you know, going back through my entire career and thinking about jobs that I was scared to speak up at or something like that, or I would get in trouble. Looking back now, I would have quit the same day. You know, it just would have never happened. But again, I do realize people need their jobs. They don't want to speak up. They can't just instantly pick up and go to a new job. But I would say if it's a fear-based reason why you're not getting anywhere at work, just do what you have to do to work on the exit plan.
That's fair. In your experiences, especially like in the bigger enterprises, I'm imagining that you see a lot of people with no interpersonal or people skills move up the ladder. It seems like that's kind of natural. Even when you moved up, did you receive any sort of leadership training, communication training as you were promoted, or did you just have to learn on your own in real time?
So the funny thing is, when I got promoted I was in a Fortune 100 company. They put you through some very strict and very good training on how to deal with people, corrective action, interpersonal skills, all these things. We actually left the building for, I think it was a month or maybe 6 weeks of just classroom training on how to manage people, you name it. Once you're out of that class, all that's out the window.
Right.
And you start looking around like, wait, I'm being told to manage this way, but this class didn't tell me that. So it's almost like a formality of, we got to get you through leadership training. But then once you get back into the active role, forget that. We manage differently in here. Right. What was the original question? So I know where I'm going with this.
Oh, just asking, like, did you go through any formal training, and was it helpful? Was there anything you would do differently?
It was super helpful. I really enjoyed the training, especially things like classes based on difficult conversations, having to give corrective action. That was extremely helpful. Probably still apply a lot of those same principles today.
And do they follow up? Like, this is the thing, like, there's lots of companies who do great workshops. They're for a day. They might even be a little long-term, like a few months or so. But there's no follow-up afterwards to help you implement this in real time. Like you said, was it just a one and done after that training? Or did you have like periodic check-ins and brush up on the training?
No periodic check-ins, no brush ups. Maybe if a new class was, introduced to us, we would go to the training center for, a few hours. But no, there was no brush ups. And again, when you get into the corporate world of, we have 10,000 people working this shift together, the stuff that made sense in that classroom, they couldn't care less if we applied it or not. We just have to worry about productivity. That's all. And that makes it really difficult because you're kind of stuck in this middle ground of like, I want to do this right. I want to lead the proper way. I want to handle these situations like I was trained to, because I know that is, the right way to do it. But again, when production is down and, your upper management don't really care about, what you learned in that class.
Yeah. When you think about you navigating the businesses you've started and just working in, again, these bigger companies, what do you think is there one thing that you had to kind of unlearn in order to be a good leader?
Yes. You have to, let me think how to word this. You have to allow people to work the way they want to work to make them the most productive. And everybody's going to do it a little bit differently. My line of work was, assembly line and manufacturing. So here's what you have to do, and this is how much time you have to do it, now go. Whereas we wouldn't have got anything accomplished then if we just said, hey, everybody go work at your own pace, do a good job. But once I got out of that world and I realized small businesses, you need help. Because 9 times out of 10, you don't make a lot of money. You don't have budgets for, high-skilled employees or employees in general. So you have to figure out ways to get people to just be productive, enjoy it, and not necessarily just say, here's how you do it, here's the SOP, don't mess up. So giving them ownership of the role, giving them ownership of the best way to do it, try to motivate them is extremely helpful. So what I unlearned was the fact that everything is not like programming a robot to do the job.
Yeah.
You have to work with people.
Yeah. And thinking back to that job you had, I mean, you could have just retired from there. I know people who are probably still there 30 years later or however long. What was that transition moment for you where you were like, I want to take a different route, and it was entrepreneurship? Tell whatever story you want to tell.
Gosh. I had a great job. Okay. My immediate manager was a great mentor. We still communicate to this day. But it was in manufacturing. And there was a day I was leaving. Everybody got off work at the exact same time. So you had this giant line of people leaving. And maybe there was 40 or 50 people in line ahead of me. And half of them are limping. They're kind of broke down. They got bad knees. They've had surgery. They've had carpal tunnel, these types of things. And for some reason during my first, 14 years there, I just overlooked all those things. And it hit me one day. It was like, I'm getting ready to be just like this, So at that point I started thinking, like, I want to do my own thing. It was extremely scary because I had a very good job, good benefits, vacation, everything was great. So to leave that for nothing was really hard. But I tell people this all the time, like when I got out of that world of manufacturing, the real world opened up to me. It's like all of a sudden I could see everything clearly. Whereas in there, I was just doing my job and going home, going to bed, waking up, go do it again. And if I could stress anything to anyone thinking about something like that, it would be pay really close attention to the world around you once you're out of that environment. Listen to people, see problems anywhere and everywhere, and kind of start to plan around what you're seeing. And like I said, the world opened up. Now I feel like I can't be stopped. I can do anything I want. I don't want to sound cheesy, but it really is that simple of like, there's problems everywhere and I can help with all these different things. Big or small. That's would be advice to give to any up and coming entrepreneur.
Hot take. Do you think anyone can be an entrepreneur?
No, I don't think so. I think, and I would never try to tell somebody they can't do it. But people are wired different. Some people do really well in a task-based job and they enjoy that. They want 100 tasks on their sheet, and they want to be able to knock them off one by one all day. And that's just what they like. It's what they're good at. They like to have their mind racing and fixing this thing, and people love to just check stuff off their list.
Yeah.
When you wake up in the morning and you are like, okay, I got to work today, but I don't know where to start. I know I got to, call this customer back. I got to check in with this employee. That can be difficult for the task-based driven person when you don't have a list to do each day. I do better in that environment. I don't like having a ton of tasks to check off.
Right.
I like to just start my day and just kind of flow through it, tackle things as they come up, those types of things. But again, I would never tell somebody they can't be an entrepreneur because there's probably something they could do.
Yeah.
But really, it's just what people perform better at. You know,
I like the phrasing of that, because I asked just because obviously I mentioned at the beginning, like, the idea of being an entrepreneur is a bit glamorized, and I think anyone just with a certain skill set just thinks, oh, I'm going to start a business and next week I'm going to be rich, and it's just not how it really works. So I was just curious how you defined it. And I think even my understanding of what entrepreneurship has evolved, because there's someone I kind of feel like me, where it's like I am trying to make a business out of a skill that I have, and then I look at someone like you who I think your skill is just business thinking. Like,
right.
Just meaning like you can make a business almost out of anything. Like you turn an idea into a business versus me turning a skill into a business. I'm limited with the skill. I can't just go out tomorrow and say, I'm going to open up a HVAC, whatever it is. But I think you observe things going on. Your mind works in this way where you're able to just put the pieces together and you come up with a solution to fill the gap that's there. Like my brain doesn't work that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is that a skill or is that
I don't know if it's a skill or a special talent or some crazy thing I do. But back to what I was saying, when you walk outside, the entire world is open to you. And you can actually just see problems everywhere, big or small. It doesn't have to be anything major. But when you see these little things where you feel like you could add some value or some help, and then you realize, well, there might actually be a business here. Yeah. I could do a lot of this. Then, you might start putting a plan together.
Yeah. It's so funny. I think, not to sound like a child about it, but like we've talked before where it's like, I think I limited myself so much in just understanding what it means to run a business. Something I didn't think I could do it, but it's never been even a thought of me to be an entrepreneur. Like my idea was, obviously I'm going to go to school. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get this job. That's what you want to do for the stability, right? To dream bigger and start something. It's just kind of like, I don't think a lot of people understand that it's actually more tangible than not. You know what I mean? And if you don't have those sort of examples around you or successful ones, it's just not even a thought.
Yeah.
Like I can't even express how much, like, I've never even given it a thought to say I'm going to start a business.
Right. It seems so out of reach for just the average person.
Yeah. Interesting. And so when you think about everything you're doing with your businesses now, moving forward, when you think about small teams, what do you hope changes over time in work cultures everywhere, like just the new norm,
It would be cool if the new norm would be understanding that people work and perform at their best in completely different ways, instead of employers treating people as robots and here's what you have to do it this way, and then go home. I think there's a small shift in understanding that everybody's motivated differently. Everybody looks at work differently. How people value their off time versus, the time they're actually on the job, those types of things. So if there could be a slow shift towards work doesn't have to always look like work, but we can still be productive at the same exact time.
That's important. I think I'm a big advocate for not just feeling like you have to have all the answers, but for asking better questions.
Mm-hmm.
So what's something that you think leaders can ask within their teams to run a better culture?
Mm-hmm.
Like what should they be asking their teams?
What they need from you to make their job better, but actually mean it when asked.
Right.
You know,
Right.
And what can I do to help? What do you guys need?
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the job's going to happen. So that's after. We're not worried about the job itself, but what can we do to improve it? You know, that would be the most important question, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then following through, when they tell you something, it better be done the same day or the same week, or communicate back to them why it can't be done.
Mm-hmm.
But don't ask a bunch of empty questions just to see if they'll give you information, because then it makes you look, you know, untrustworthy, or even like, why did you even ask me that if you weren't going to do anything?
Right. So because this is the resolution room, I have to end with a signature resolution question. So when you imagine a small business rooted in clarity, connection, and care, what is the single shift you believe every leader must make to transform culture from the inside out?
Take a long look in the mirror first. Ask yourself, what am I doing and what do I want to do with this? Do I want to take care of people that are taking care of me? I think when you put your employees first and realize I have no business if it wasn't for these people. So they're by far the most important part of the business. I can't do sales if I don't have employees. You know, I can't do services if I don't have the employees. So that is your core. So I think asking yourself every day, what can they get out of this? How can I help them? Would be the best place to start, honestly. And if you do that, if you do that right, the culture is going to improve. Workplace morale will improve, and people won't hate coming in every day.
Most importantly,
people don't mind.
Right. Thank you for that answer. So can you let everyone know where to follow you in your work or anything you have coming up that we should be on the look for?
Well, I don't really do social media or anything like that. I'm pretty low key. So I'm not going to ask you to like and subscribe because I don't even know what that would be for.
But please like and subscribe to this.
Definitely. This show has been great. I'm doing some big things. Maybe in the next 6 months to a year, you'll hear some cool stories. So that's all I'll say.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you, Mr. Mills.
Thank you.
Thank you for stepping into the resolution room. Take care.
Thank you so much. This has been great.
Yay.